If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schafer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump. So for the first 51 minutes of this episode, Adam, Justin, and myself have fun. We catch up. We have some good conversation. We talk about current events. After that, we get into the fitness portion of this episode. But here's what we talked about in that first half and the second half. So for the first half, we start out by talking about Kiss. Not the physical action, but the rock band. That
terrible band.
Justin talked massive shit about.
Bring it, Kiss fans. You suck.
Let's see what the backlash looks like.
Yeah.
Adam shared some good news. It's been 2 years now. Project Adam, trying to get his testosterone levels up into the normal range after he went off synthetic testosterone. Find out if it had been working. He did an Everlywell testosterone test, and the results were interesting, to say the least. By the way, you get 15% off any Everlywell test if you go to everlywell.com and use the code MINDPUMP. The testosterone test is only $59. Then we talked about the movie The Great Gatsby. Had a good time watching that this weekend. And then I came up with some interesting ideas. I titled it The Paradox of Being Around a Lot of People, and how we feel more lonely than ever. Adam brought up a news article. Amazon apparently bought Delivery Co. Looks like the wars on who's going to bring you your food is getting heated up. Then I talk about the CBD market. CBD is the cannabinoid known as cannabidiol. It's found in marijuana, but also found in hemp. Apparently that market is exploding, expected to hit $20 billion in the next 5 years or so.
Good
now,
Lord.
Our favorite source of legal hemp-derived full-spectrum cannabinoid oil, also containing CBD, is Ned. Ned tests their products. They're clean. They are effective, and they do give you an efficacious dose. And we got a discount for you. So if you go to HelloNed, HELLONED.com/mindpump, you will get 15% off your first purchase. Then we brought up the news about Tony Robbins. He's the motivational speaker, probably the most well-known motivational speaker in the world. There's some controversy surrounding him right now, so we had a good discussion around that.
Getting some heat.
And then we talked about Huawei, the Chinese tech company. And
is it the right way or the Huawei?
Dang.
Yeah, bad joke.
That was a good one. It looks like there's the economic war between China and the U.S. is heating up, and Huawei is the most recent target. And then we get into the fitness portion of this episode. Here's the first question. When the gym is packed, what do you recommend that I do? So this person can't do their normal exercises. Should they go home or should they improvise? What is our advice? The next question, after 2 weeks of not working out, do I jump right back into my workout or do I change what I do in the short term? We talk about some strategies and we also apply them to our most popular program, MAPS Anabolic. The next question, is it better to do a slow, gradual cut? In other words, drop your calories slowly over time. Or is it more effective to do the drastic cut for a short period of time? Believe it or not, both of them can be advantageous or beneficial. It just depends on who you are and what your goals are.
No cuts, no butts, no coconuts.
And the final question, we go in depth on what body dysmorphia is, in our opinion, in the context of fitness, and how it can sabotage your health and fitness goals. And we give you advice. All three of us have suffered from body dysmorphia in one way or another. And we've, of course, trained lots of clients. So I think we give good advice in that part of the episode. Also, we're coming up towards the end of this promotion. You better act now. MAPS HIT 50% off. Now, MAPS HIT is our short-term, high-calorie burning, intense workout. HIT stands for high-intensity interval training. These are done with barbell complexes, dumbbell complexes, and we program them properly. So you work your whole body and you get good mobility at the same time. This program, extremely popular for short-term fat loss. In other words, if you want to lose a lot of fat in a short period of time, very popular program. Again, it's half off. All you got to do is go to mapshit.com, MAPSHIIT.com, and use the code HIT50, HIIT50, for the discount. Make sure you do it soon.
T-shirt time!
And it's T-shirt time.
Ah, shit, Doug. You know it's my favorite time of the week.
Oh, yeah. All right, we have a few winners here. We have iTunes winners, 4 of them. ARVC, Can't Stop Me, Happy App User, Matt Daddy,
Matt Damon,
Tim May, 1994. And for Facebook, we have Chris Rudd, Carly Dietzman, Frank A. Hart. All of you are winners. Send the name I just read to iTunes at mindpumpmedia.com. Send your shirt size, your shipping address, and include your Instagram handle, and we'll get that shirt right out to you.
Hold
on to the night.
Hold on to your memories.
Oh.
Ooh.
Together,
are you guys awake?
Hey,
together
Doug,
we're really good.
All the listens? Yeah.
Doug, can you
We
edit
should harmonize more.
Adam's voice out of that part?
Make it sound.
No way.
Can we do something for reals? How much does a auto tune cost?
Oh my God.
idea.
A synthesizer.
No.
That's what I
I am dead serious. I think it would be a very smart investment if we get an auto
I
tune.
feel like there's a T-Pain app out
Dude,
there that does it already.
Tell me how funny it wouldn't be hilarious to have Adam sing, but do through auto tune. It would be so good. It would be so good, dude.
I like the little part that Eli did with Taylor when he's lip singing, and then it cuts to the
The actual song.
yeah. And then the mic screwing all up.
I love that.
That was pretty good.
No,
man.
but who was that? Richard Marx that sang that?
I think
Hold on.
so. I don't. Yeah, like that's just a guess.
That was do you remember?
Don't act like it was one of your favorite songs.
I don't want to admit that I'm a fan.
Yeah.
You know what we used to call him? Dick Marks, because that's his name.
Oh, because it's short for Richard.
Yeah.
That's not that.
I
Smart.
saw the people that didn't
Genius.
get your original joke on when you referenced Kiss on your IG.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the people that were like,
They're pissed that I'm a fan of Kiss.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't fucking like Kiss. They're terrible.
Wait a
That's
minute.
a terrible, terrible band.
You don't like Kiss?
Terrible.
Why?
What? I wanna rock and roll and fucking repeat it a million times.
Hey. Hold on a
That's
second.
all I got.
Hold on a second,
yeah.
bro. Fucking Kiss? You know, they were the first. They were one of the first bands to figure out how to fucking really make money through merchandising and marketing. They were one of the first.
Yeah,
I
that doesn't
think that-
surprise me at all.
They were brilliant.
That's why I think everybody doesn't like them.
So here's the thing with Kiss. It's like New Kids on the Block. Okay, just wait.
It's just like Alice Cooper for me too.
Everybody
I'll go there.
loved them. Kiss was the shit. Everybody liked them at first. They had the best concerts, fucking fireworks and costumes.
Yeah,
and
it was all about the
insane shit.
pageantry.
Right. And then because they just oversaturated everybody, then it became cool to not like them. And then it became cool to like them again. Just like New Kids on the Block. Remember New Kids on the Block? Everybody loved them. And then it was like, if you liked them, you were a nerd.
Yeah.
And then now they fucking sell out stadiums because we're all older.
I loved it because they were like the ones that were making fun of disco at the time, and then they put out a disco album. What?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Like, how dare you?
Gene Simmons is fucking, I think he's a maniac.
I think he's.
weren't they all really smart guys too?
They're
Gene Simmons is brilliant.
They're business smart.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Bro, they have a fucking huge audience. I'm surprised
They were one of those bands that were like I don't think it was Harvard, but all of them were all like all went to a prestigious
I don't know.
college, didn't they?
I don't know.
Look it up, Doug. I think they did.
I don't consider Kiss like
I might be making
one of the
shit up.
best rock bands of all time for sure, but I do appreciate.
I mean,
them.
I like, again, I recognize their concerts, like what they provided people. That was everything, right? They had the pyrotechnics, they had the crazy spacesuits.
They had the Kiss Army, dude.
Yeah, they had all the schlocky shit, that they're gonna throw out there to like sell their music that's dog shit.
Oh my god!
You know what I mean? It's
Well, hold on a
like,
second. Hold on a second.
dressing up a
So let me ask you,
ugly ass pig.
Let me ask you this: so you don't
What?
like their music because their songs are typically like 3 or 4 chords and it repeats over and over again. It's not that super creative.
It's not creative. It's just like
you-
pure like lame.
Do you like the Ramones?
I love the Ramones.
Okay, so the Ramones are fucking worse with that.
Yeah.
The Ramones are like 2 chords.
No, you're right.
It's like the whole song.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 lyrics, and then you're
Yeah.
done.
I mean, that's a valid point. I still like the Ramones.
So why do they get a pass but not Kiss?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's just like it's I guess is less authentic. Like I feel like the Ramones came out, they're like, yeah, we fucking suck, you know, and they, you know, it's like punk rock that they suck, you know, and then they just like went with it, and then it became like anthems versus Kiss is like all about the show and we're so awesome. No, your music sucks.
Oh,
admit that your music sucks.
Boy, I'm sure you get some fucking
I hope
blowback.
so. I hope so.
I don't think so.
I think he's gonna get some blowback.
He got more blowback on his Instagram for referencing Mind Pump like Kiss, but what the audience didn't understand was Justin was making fun of us.
Yes.
By referencing Kiss, and then people thought he was bragging. Like,
you know what it is? Justin has a lot of hardcore.
He does. He was
metal
getting,
and
he was
rock
getting, he was getting
totally.
other. Yeah, that's exactly what he was getting. He was getting jabs from other musicians.
Yeah, because I love metal, and I can go down the rabbit hole of like the craziest, weirdest genre. But like, yeah, Kiss for me is just like that's the death of all metal.
So then you don't like. So then, what do you think of like what's that? I can't remember. What was that documentary we just watched
Queen?
on Netflix? No.
Queen's amazing.
Queen's amazing.
Yeah.
What was that documentary that was just on Netflix? We were talking about it. Nikki Sixx, the
Motley Crue.
Motley Crue.
Do you like Motley Crue?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're just fun. I don't know. I feel like they're in it for like the partying and the chicks, you know, and they're like very honest about that, and that's fine.
Well, dude, Kiss. Dude,
I know.
Gene Simmons.
I just don't like it, bro. Sometimes you just don't like something.
Yeah, there you go.
know, like
I'm trying to break
maybe
it down.
it's me. All right, maybe it's me. I don't know.
They took the
I don't
makeup
think I'm
thing
alone.
to a whole other level too.
The makeup.
Yeah, the makeup thing they took to a whole other level.
There was a whole period.
It was a little much, you know.
And rock has been like this for a long time, or there's the theatrical aspect of it, the fucking, you know, I'm out there. And for a second there, it was cool to put on, to dress up, you know, as something weird and different. And I mean, Alice Cooper was
Alice
shit.
Cooper was there. I mean, then Marilyn Manson came after that.
Yeah,
like, I liked Alice Cooper a little bit more, but his music wasn't the greatest either. When you go back and listen to it, it's just like, ugh. That whole creepy song about like being fascinated with 17-year-old girls. And stuff.
Well, yeah, dude,
like,
rock and roll's weird like that.
They had a lot of those songs back then.
A lot, dude. Weird, like
hey now,
wouldn't be able to make it today. It would not make
it's called
it today.
statutory.
Yeah. And you know what else? Who wouldn't make it? We just talked about the Ramones. No way in hell the Ramones would have gotten far during the video era. There's no way.
Yeah.
They don't look like,
especially with 4K now. Yeah,
it wouldn't have worked. But I'm a big fan of the Ramones. I appreciate
the
Kiss.
Ramones a lot.
I appreciate Kiss for you know what they did. I wouldn't say that they're like one of the best rock bands, but anyway, Adam, I wanted to ask you about your.
Let the hate mail come my way.
Yeah, Kiss Army attack. Adam,
We're all dead.
You had commented on a recent podcast, and I purposely did not ask too much details because I wanted to save it for this episode.
What's up?
About your testosterone levels.
Oh, nice transition to my nuts. Huh?
You just did another what?
This is a nice transition to my nuts.
What? That's weird.
Yeah,
your pituitary makes it too. Yeah. But anyway, what's the deal?
Only a nerd would you like correct me like that with that comment.
Yeah.
Fucking.
I have to.
Nuts.
Yeah. Anyway. What's the deal with it? You mentioned one of our last podcasts that your testosterone now is in the normal. It used to be in the low average. Now it's in the middle.
Yeah, at the very, very bottom. I think it was like 1 point on the Everlywell scoring scale. It was like 1 point from being low, right? Mm-hmm. So I was in the normal range. Now I'm about almost halfway through there. So it's definitely increased. And I posted it on my Instagram stories. Right after I took the Everlywell test, and I got a ton of people asking me, you know, what am I doing differently? And I'm really not doing anything that much different than what I've been doing for the last year and a half, almost 2 years now. And I think it's just taking time.
Yes, you're doing everything right, but then the big factor is time. And people, this is a good lesson for people to understand, because I think people will apply and do everything right, and they'll say, okay, I'm doing everything right, but I'm not getting all the results I want right now. And it's like, okay, you're forgetting about the most important factor, which is time and patience. Right.
And that's, talk about testing that, because I think I was expressing to you guys off air that if this latest Everlywell test came back and I was the same or lower, I was going to get back on my hormone replacement therapy, because it was just like, man, it had been well over a year. I mean, October will be 2 years for me. So what are we in right now? So that's a few months away from, so over a year and a half, almost 2 years that I've been chipping away at this. and really the last 3 Everlywell tests have been like exact same number, consistent. And those were like, 3 months, 6 months in between each one. And I hadn't seen any real progress. And it's been everything from the Juvely to the, sauna to training for more towards health than performance or look,
good diet.
Diet's been balanced. Like I'm not running like a keto diet or anything like that. I've got a nice good balance of carbs, protein, and fat. I've even introduced a little bit of like cardiovascular training, like training with my swimming and my rowing, really trying to improve my sleep. So it's just been a bunch of things that I've been doing for a really long time.
And overall, all that stuff is just to make you healthier.
Right. Right.
That's it.
And so now so at least now it's got me actually more excited to kind of keep going. Cause I literally have all of my testosterone set. Like I have a kit waiting at home that's got all my my stack ready to go to get back on and do all that. And I was literally like this close to getting started again, and then got that back and saw that I had finally made an increase. So now I'm like kind of motivated again to see.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, here's the thing, like a couple things that people need to understand, and I know you considered this, which is why you were so patient, but this is the important thing to understand, is that Adam was on synthetic testosterone, either relatively high doses for competing or replacement doses for in between, and nonstop for like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So 5 or 6 years, for 5 or 6 years, your body wasn't really producing a lot or any of its own testosterone. And so, of course, when you go off and you do all the right things, it's still going to take time for your body to really get that signal. And initially it did. Initially it did get the signal, which is why your testosterone went from 0 to low normal. Yeah. Like initially, that's the initial signal. But then staying there long enough and still lifting weights, still eating right, still getting good sleep, still sending the other signals to the body, and the fact that the body's not getting the synthetic testosterone signal, the body eventually reaches a healthier level. Now, I surmise, here's my thing, my bet. My bet is if this is going to keep happening. I think within the next year or two, if you stay off, your testosterone levels will go up to the upper average range. That's just my opinion. I think it'll continue. If you keep doing what you're doing, it'll continue to move up just because you're a healthy person. You eat good, you exercise regularly, you're focusing on your sleep. And for men, a healthy male in your age group, testosterone levels will be fine. They don't really start to get hammered down low for a real long time. I had clients in their 60s and 70s who were very fit and very healthy for years. I had one guy I trained who he trained with me for 4 years, but before that, the guy worked out for the previous 30 years consistently, and he was really, really healthy. He'd go get his testosterone levels checked, and he was like, and these are the ranges that you'll get from the doctor with a blood test. The guy's testosterone was in the 700s, which is high for a 20-year-old male.
Yeah.
And that's the male body. We don't go through menopause like women do. So I surmise that, and the way you did it is ideal. This is my recommendation to people, is that test, if you want to see what's affecting and testosterone for men is a nice gauge of overall health. It's not perfect, okay? So it's not the only gauge, but it's a nice general gauge. If your testosterone levels are going down, then you can pretty safely assume that something's not right, something's off. If your testosterone levels start to go up, you can pretty safely assume that things are on the right track.
Yeah, I just actually sent mine off yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see, because what I had mentioned before about like sleep patterns and stuff, if my quality of sleep has increased. So I'm hoping that, even through that process, like I've been able to increase the levels a bit, and then, keep check on that and see what I'm doing and make sure I'm getting progress. That's
the thing right there. So the just testosterone test on Everlywell is $59, so it's super cheap. It's like less. It's as much as like 2-year pre-workout supplements that are worthless. So my advice, and this is what you did, Adam, is to test your testosterone roughly every quarter.
Yeah, I already have my next one lined up. So
Exactly.
it's already it's in my bed or bathroom right now. That's just waiting for me.
So that's 4 tests a year. You have it set up,
Yeah.
and in between, because that gives you enough time, right? That's 3 months where you can make tweaks and then see how your body responds. You figure 4 tests at at $50, a few $100, and it's all in your hands. You don't have to go to the doctor. You send it in,
well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what'll happen now. Now that I finally have seen some sort of real positive response from all the work that I've been doing for the last week. But man, I tell you what,
is that a deterrent? Knowing how long it took you to get back to normal, is that a deterrent to getting back on? Like, fuck, if I go back on and if I ever want to go off again.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a deterrent. And it's also a deterrent just knowing that, it's possible that I can keep going.
Yeah.
There for a long time there that I was starting to lose hope, and which is where I totally understand somebody going through this, because I like to think that I have pretty good mental discipline when it comes to something like this. And
so 2 years is a long wait.
It is a fucking long time, dude. It's a very long time, and it's a long time when you're doing a lot of things to work towards it. Like,
most people wouldn't have lasted that long. I'm gonna be honest with you. If it wasn't you, I don't know.
And the hardest part, and I think I've shared this with you off air, is the motivation. That's what's killing me more than anything else. Is I know what it's like to have high levels of testosterone, and then also to be in a good, really normal high range. And the motivation to train that comes with that is completely different than the way I feel now. It's like every time I go to the gym, it's not every time, most of the time now that I go to the gym, it's like this. I have to have this self-talk. Like, you got to get in there. You got to do these things. Mm-hmm. You need to do this for you. It's important. It's important. Versus, I was the guy who forever, I used to fall asleep thinking about my workout the next day.
It's just not as fun.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's not as fun. It doesn't feel. I don't get the crazy pumps from it. I don't get the response. When I'm dialed nutritionally training and my testosterone levels are high, it's like, day after day, I'm seeing little subtle changes. I'm making improvements where, this is like I could go weeks of consistency with the diet and training and everything and see very minimal physical change, which it can be demoralizing for sure. But
it's like when Superman, when you remember when that was it part 2 where he got his powers taken away? Did you hear that?
I don't know. I wasn't a big Superman guy.
Oh, you weren't a big Superman?
No.
With Reeves?
Oh, yeah.
The old one, Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
Where he goes in the chamber and they take away his powers, and then he goes to the bar. And he's standing up for against some big dude, but he gets his ass kicked. Fuck, I'm not Superman.
Oh man, it's not working.
Yeah. Speaking of movies, you know what movie I watched for the first time last night? The Great Gatsby.
Oh, good movie.
With Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, they did a good
Did you
job
read
with
that book in high school?
Never read it.
Oh, you didn't read that in high
I had
school?
no idea
we
what the
had
story.
to read that.
Yeah, that was mandatory.
Was did the movie did it cover the book well?
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job in that movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job.
There was one quote in the movie that, and I love it when this happens. Sometimes I'll watch TV or a movie or I'll read something, and then it sparks a thought process. I actually paused the movie and thought, and sat there thinking for like 15 minutes. One of the characters in there said, I love big parties because they're so intimate. And this was a huge party. Gatsby had thrown a huge party, so there's literally hundreds of people at his house. And she's like, I love big parties because they're so intimate. There's no privacy at small parties. And at first I'm like, well, that sounds silly. Like, what do you mean intimate in a big party? And I thought about it. I'm like, no, it's actually true. When you're at a small party, you can't get away and be, intimate with one person or two people because there's only 10 people there. So everybody's just kind of around each other.
Yeah.
Where there's a big party, you can kind of break off and do your own thing. So that got me thinking about a lot about the paradox of being around a lot of people. And so later that day, Jessica and I went to the mall, and we were walking around in the mall because it was raining, which is weird. The weather right now is really weird. But anyway, it was raining, and the mall was packed. And I'm looking at all these people after having thought about that quote on The Great Gatsby, and I'm realizing that people are so lonely, yet we're around so many different people. Like you're around all these different people. You're tons of people to talk to and connect with, but you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that it actually makes it easier to be alone.
Do you feel like social media is exaggerating that?
I feel like the world has become so big, or no, I should say, the world has felt now so small in the sense that we're connected to so many people. But the paradox of that is, it makes it easier to be lonely and alone. For example, if we didn't have telephones, if we didn't have internet, you would for sure be connected to your neighbors and your neighborhood, and you know what's going on. You talk to people. But because we're so connected to so many people and there's so much stuff that's out there, we feel lonely in our busy ass cities. You know, I'm surrounded by all these people, but I go to the mall and I'm by myself at the mall around all these different people. It was an interesting thought. And so that's part of, I think, the reason why we're seeing loneliness being one of the number one problems in modern societies. And it's very rarely a problem in societies that are less populated and less advanced.
Have you seen those little, you just reminded me of something I read the other day of these little communities that they're building. Seattle has one. This is, and I forget the name of them. I'm sure somebody will on our forum will tell me. But they're like 1,000 square foot houses, and they build them in these little
molecule homes,
kind of like that. But that's not the name of these communities. It's something else. And you know, they build them in these beautiful areas. They picked like right at the edge of this forest, and I think it's only like a total of, I want to say 15 houses, 1,000 square houses, and then it has they're designed to where they're, I mean, each
like
house,
a shoebox, right?
Yeah, totally. It's like a total shoebox. Right in the center is this like courtyard area that's a common area, and then they have like another sitting common area. But it's really designed to build this community, and there's like a little vegetable garden everybody works on.
It's conducive to connecting with people.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Is that's kind of the idea behind it. Is less stuff, less big house with lots of small minimalist type of lifestyle.
I'm telling you, we are going to reach
something to it.
I'm telling you, we're going to reach a point where we're going to get everything we think we want, and then we're going to realize, fuck, this is not what I actually wanted. My dad used to tell me that when I was a kid. My dad would tell stories about how he grew up, and half the time I used to think he was full of shit because my dad would say, because my dad was poor. I mean, he was dirt poor. Like 9 years old, my dad left school and had to work because otherwise they didn't have enough money for shit. You know, my dad would he slept in a bed shared with all his siblings, and they'd sleep head to foot. Like my dad used to get angry because his brother would kick his face, and he'd tell me stories.
Oh man!
I mean, he'd tell me all these stories. And, you know, tell me stories about how, like, there was this one family who got a TV and all the kids would, like, huddle around outside to try and peek through the window to see if they could watch the guy's TV. And then every once in a while, the guy would close the drapes to be an asshole, and the kids would get... So he'd tell me all these stories, and I'd be like, fuck, that sucks. But then he would tell me, like, he'd say, you know, we go here in America, we have all these big houses. He goes, you have your own room, your sisters have their own room, your brother has their own room, we have a big kitchen. And he goes, and that means we're all alone. And I'd be like, what do you mean? He goes, when I was a kid, he goes, my house was 2 rooms and we didn't have a lot of shit. And so we were always together, always hanging out together, always connected. He goes, it was much better back then. And now when I was a kid, he said, that's not better. Like, you guys were poor. You had your bathroom was outside. You know, you guys didn't have a phone.
Personal space.
Yeah, my grandparents didn't get a phone until my dad was like in his 30s. You know, he used to have to schedule phone calls to talk to his parents. His parents used to have to go to a neighbor's house and at 1 o'clock so they can get on the phone. But I could see where there's truth in what he says, and I swear to God, man, I think we're heading towards a direction where we're going to start to do shit like what you're talking about, Adam, where they're designing like maybe 20 years ago that would be silly. They'd be like, what are you building 1,000 square foot or 500 square foot homes?
Yeah, who's going to want this?
Yeah, everybody wants a 5,000 square foot home, but I think people are starting to realize what's like, oh, I got enough, and what's really important is connecting. You know,
that's an interesting thought, yeah, because it's definitely the physicalness of like hanging out with people in person is so much different experience,
dude.
And they keep trying to replicate that virtually, and it's like
it's not.
I just don't know if they could ever do it.
No, there's a difference, and there's subtleties in communication and contact with a person in person that we have yet to be able to put into words. You know, how many times have you heard someone say, oh, that guy's got great energy, or that girl's got great energy, or I feel the tension in the room. You know, the best explanation we have for that in science, of course, you have the esoteric people who talk about, you know, the mystical energies and shit like that, which whatever, that's fine. Science, the best explanation they have is that your brain is getting so many millions of bits of information, every second. You are only made aware of a tiny, tiny fraction, but that doesn't mean your brain isn't processing all that information. And so it's picking up so many subtle pieces of and bits of information and cues, and then it's creating a feeling for you like tension. And so you're not aware of why you feel tense in this room, but your brain is processing all the subtle movements and inflections in voice and smells and all these different things. And so your brain's like, hey, we should feel tense right now. Or, hey, energy's good. You know, when you meet someone, you're like, I just like that guy. Well, why? I don't know. I just think I like him. And so I trying to figure that out. We don't know what to look for, is my point. So until we know what to look for, I don't think we're going to be able to figure that out.
I mean, I've heard that, you know, some of these programs that they've started to launch for VR, like one of them was like basically where it has you stand like on something, and it's like it emulates you like you're on a ledge, and you start to really feel this panic and fear that you're going to fall. And it's like, they said that it's like one of the first times you actually really feel like this exhilarating, like primal feeling of fear that you're going to fall. Like it's the first time they've been able to replicate that. So it's interesting to me.
Why would you want to do that for?
I don't know, but they want that experience in a virtual form.
That's so funny.
Probably because we want to experience shit without what we perceive
the consequences,
to be
right?
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
That's crazy.
Well, you know what? That brings me to another thought that I had was that we think we know all the consequences or effects of an action, but we don't really know all of the consequences and actions. And so I'll give you guys a good example. Let's say people could do any crime that they wanted to and be guaranteed that they would never, ever, ever get caught. I think you would have a lot of people who would perceive it as being side effect free, consequence free, and they would do a lot of crazy shit. You know, maybe murder, rob, steal. But I think they would quickly realize, hopefully over time, that there are still effects and consequences. Just because you're not getting caught doesn't mean you're not going to have these consequences of behaving in a particular way. So, when
do you guys think the studies are going to come out as far as consequences on all these like delivery services? So this weekend it was all rainy, right? Bad weather.
Yeah.
And I think my Oura Ring said I took like 700 steps, like total. So, like we literally. I mean, I was sick too, right? So to give myself a little bit of a break here. But,
and playoffs and everything else.
But yeah, right. And I was watching sports. So it was a good weekend to be holed up. But what I thought was, so we had Costco, Safeway, and Nick the Greek, right? So everything delivered to our house.
Wow.
So Costco, rang our doorbell at like noon, dropped off all our Costco stuff. Then in comes Safeway. Safeway drops all of our Safeway stuff off. And then in comes lunch. Nick the Greek drops off food for us. And
were you just in your t-shirt?
What is it?
Yeah, totally. It was like, yeah.
Do you just like add? I mean, do they add like a service fee as they?
Yeah, like $6.
Not bad.
Yeah, of course, $6 because it costs my truck that much to drive up the fucking road. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you do the
that's
math.
A no-brainer.
Yeah, especially on a day like that. It's I think it costs us totally like $6 extra in services, maybe combined all three of them, maybe $12 or whatever. Worth of
And you were in your typical, Adam wears when he's at home. Like when you're lounging around at home, people wear like their sweats or whatever. Yeah. Adam just wears a shirt, no pants,
no pants.
No.
That's my look.
It's like it's like
gotta let it breathe.
It's like a nightgown except it's too small. You know what I mean?
I don't need that visual, Sal. Going too far.
But you
just see bottom.
I think we're gonna see. So if one of the times, how funny is this? So one of the times, this is how popular it's getting though. I went out and this guy pulls up and he didn't speak the best English. Katrina is like, hey, she goes, Safeway's here. And could you go run down at me? And we always try and meet them outside because otherwise the boys go crazy and they start barking and want to, bite someone's head off. Always freaks out people dropping off shit. So she's like, could you go run out there? I just saw Safeway pull up. So I go out and the guy that was pulling up, he was confirming the address to me, but he had really broken English, and so I didn't understand him. I was just, yeah. And I start taking these bags.
It was somebody else's?
Yeah, it was somebody else's shit. He's walking up the stairs, and he's like looking at my address, and he's like, no. And I'm like, oh, this is, 3036. And he's like, yeah, no, 3038. And I'm like, oh, sorry. And so, but that's how popular it's getting at the same time I'm getting stuff as somebody else, and you're starting to see this happen more and more. And again, to your point, Sal, like such an awesome service, right? I'm so happy to have it, but that stuff starts to add up. The grocery shopping is actually one of my favorite things to create activity on the weekend. I'm the guy who I know most guys hate to go shopping with their wife or their partner. I actually opt to go a lot of times, Katrina, because it's a quick, easy way for me to get 2,000 to 3,000 steps, and I can have a conversation with her. We normally have great conversation while we shop.
And a grocery store,
not with kids.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, I get that.
That's the worst.
That's a way to practice being present. Let me tell you.
Right.
You go to the grocery store, if you just sit there and just observe and slow the process down, especially the vegetable and fruit section, and it's a very vibrant, colorful, kind of beautiful place to be.
Sexual.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a lot of cucumber shopping. Lots of
of
cucumbers and eggplant.
Yeah,
you see Justin's grocery cart
items there.
Nothing but eggplants and cucumbers.
Courtney's like, why you got all these phallic vegetables? What are we eating tonight?
Bananas.
Carrots, cucumbers, and eggplant. That's a weird dinner. And pickles.
Start peeling.
I don't get this. What about the proteins? Oh, sausage.
So speaking of those services, you guys see, and I tell you what, man, this is why when we brought up Uber the other day, why I'm not a big fan of Uber as a stock right now. One of the other things that Uber is counting on, aside from their self-automated cars to meet their, what they've been evaluated as, but also their Uber Eats. They're counting on Uber Eats to dominate the space and take over. And Amazon just swooped in and picked up on a company called Deliverco, which is like the biggest food delivery service in London. And they outbid Uber on that and snatched that up. So that's not good.
So now they're going to make them international. They were just in London before that?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
So look out. Amazon's making their way into the food delivery service like Uber and
it's so competitive. I love
DoorDash.
it.
Yeah, no, it is. It's fun. I mean, as a consumer, it's really fun.
You know what's
going
to happen at some point if there's enough competition is it'll be, mark my words, you'll have companies try to kill each other. It'll be cheaper to have it delivered to your house than it will be to drive and buy it at the grocery store.
Bro, it's already there. That's why I just said that. I mean, literally, Safeway's not that far, and it's an exaggeration to say that my truck would take $6 of gas to get there. But it most certainly would take a couple bucks. It would take a couple bucks to get there and come out, and then your time. It's like when you do the math on it, it's like it's actually kind of hard to justify. The way I justify it is like it's good for me to get the activity.
That's so awesome.
That's how crazy it's gotten. It's like I definitely don't not do it because the cost to me is a no-brainer. I actually opt to do it most of the time because I want to get out. It's a good time for Katrina and I to get out together, to walk, to talk, to do that, to get activity. But if it was purely a cost thing, it's already gotten to the point now where it makes almost more sense just to have it delivered.
Just wait till they start to figure out that they can even market to you with it. Like, we'll deliver your groceries, and then when you get them, here's a free bag of samples. Here's a free bag. And on top of it, so one thing that grocery stores did a while ago, not a huge long time ago, but a while ago that was really helped grocery stores make a lot more money was they gave you these membership cards. So like for saving on deals. So like a Safeway card or a Lucky's card or whatever, and you type it in and you get a discount. In reality, what they're doing is they're trying to track your purchasing habits so that they know what people want, what they don't want, what they're selling you. That's a new level when you buy things online. Yeah. Whole new level. Like now they'll be able to market to you in ways that wasn't possible.
That's what
before.
I really liked about that one show that we watched, like a few episodes, and I told you I thought you would really like it. It was the one where the guy, where it's your being able to market to you becomes more valuable than money, that you can opt to not pay for something to listen to someone market to you for 5 or 10 minutes. Like we're getting to that point now. Like it's pretty interesting to watch how that starts to get integrated. And speaking of markets, I've been getting a ton of DMs, Sal, and I'm going to defer to you because I feel like you read more on like the CBD markets and what's going on with that. Everyone keeps asking me, what stock am I invested in, and what do you think about that market? And you tend to follow that more than I do. Yeah.
So with the CBD market, I actually pulled up an article that was put out recently. This is like this week, and this is from Forbes magazine. Okay. The CBD market could reach about $20 billion by 2024. Wow. So in the next 5 years, they expect it to hit $20 billion. And this is crazy because CBD was non-existent,
Yeah.
almost non-existent, I should say, about 5 years ago. Now, I personally think that there's a lot of interest in CBD, and I think there are some potential applications. In particular, I think CBD and the company of choice that I work with is Ned, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the reason why I think the things that I think CBD applies to are things like anxiety. I think as an anxiolytic, the anecdotes that come back from the benefits of CBD are most positive with that. Like people are like, oh, I'm anxious. It helps me calm my nerves or whatever. Increases in sociability. So not that it's like a party drug like alcohol, but if you're an anxious person in public, oftentimes that makes you feel less social. So a lot of people are like, oh, CBD helps me feel more social, probably from the anxiolytic properties. And then from the anti-inflammatory systemic effects, being that CBD seems to help the body regulate its own inflammatory process, which is good because traditional anti-inflammatory drugs like NSAIDs, right? Ibuprofen, for example, or naproxen, which is found in Aleve, for example, those hammer down inflammation and they're indiscriminate. It's not. It doesn't go from. It doesn't take you to what a good, healthy level of inflammation is. It just brings it all down. You need to have a certain level of inflammation in the body to be healthy. Inflammation is what signals the body to repair, build. Studies will show that athletes who take lots of traditional anti-inflammatory drugs have less muscle growth, have increases in tendon and ligament tears over long periods of time. CBD is different in the sense that it seems to help the body regulate its own inflammatory system. So if your natural inflammatory system is a little bit off because of lack of sleep, poor diet, whatever, CBD helps your body bring it into a normal range. It doesn't hammer it down, brings it into a normal range. I could see where that is something that is beneficial for CBD. Where I don't necessarily see CBD doing a lot of things is how it's being marketed everywhere else.
It's crazy.
Fucking fat loss and
beauty.
Beauty. Rub this on your face and drink the water.
Burgers and this and that.
Yeah, like I don't see. I think they're just hopping on the CBD train and because it's
pixie dusting it everywhere.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, weed is becoming legal. What's the thing I can take that's not going to make me high?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because Courtney and I actually spent the weekend focused on restoration and really like getting away and getting massages and recuperating. And so we had like a couples massage. And one of the options there I was looking was actually using CBD oil, like within the process of that. I thought that was interesting. Obviously, of course, that's like just another thing that I think they're trying to kind of highlight that it's a popular thing.
No,
right
I
now.
could see value.
But I see value.
Yeah, I could see value in you taking your Ned drops before you go into a massage.
Yes.
I could totally see the value in that.
Yes. And so, and here's the other thing, because the market's exploding, it's being flooded with marketers who are marketing their products as having CBD. But here's the problem: real CBD at efficacious doses is actually quite rare, and this is based off of studies. Like the independent researchers will go and test 5 different companies that say they have CBD in their products, and they'll find that none of them have CBD, or they have a very little amount, or they have other shit in it. Just like with other supplements, it's just not very. So what you want is a company that's going to provide you with independent lab results to show you specifically, yes, our product contains efficacious amounts of cannabinoids. That's the other thing too. CBD by itself is not as effective as when it's
full spectrum.
Yeah, when it's combined with other cannabinoids and terpenes from the plant. Scientists call this the entourage effect. Ned is not a CBD oil. It's a hemp full spectrum cannabinoid hemp oil. So it's got all the cannabinoids in there besides THC, or at least low enough doses of THC to where it's legal. So, but it $20 billion.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it went from nowhere. It came out of nowhere.
I know. It's the gold rush of CBD.
It's the green rush.
Green rush.
That's
there
exactly
you go.
what it is. What'd you guys think of all the Tony Robbins news, man?
Yeah, so inform us. Like what? So it came out that that people like what happened in terms of like the people that were like complaining
it said that first of all, I guess it was like
it's BuzzFeed.
20 to 30 years ago, this had happened, that he was inappropriate with some employees, that he berated somebody else, like, and the reason why I wanted to bring it up was, first of all, I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. I think what he's contributing to society as a whole is mostly positive and amazing, and many people that I know that have experienced him in person or read his books or been around him has had nothing but amazing things to say about him as an individual. And then out comes this article that completely just drags his name through the mud. And you know, I read it, and it was like, man, my first reaction into it is like, I always want to hear the other side of the story, no matter what, right? But I was like, man, that's too bad. That's unfortunate for a guy who's done so much good to have something like this happen. And my buddies were sharing it, and they reverted right away to, you know, the kind of piling on of it is like, oh, you know, it just shows you that, you know, all these people that are famous, this and that, they're fucking corrupt and da 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 and like bad.
Did you see the
article that he wrote?
He wrote towards directed towards, but he made some good points in there.
No, it was excellent. I thought, and that's why I wanted to bring it up now, was because and I think you put it in your story, the BuzzFeed.
I did.
Yeah, so you shared it in your story. And then hopefully, Jack, you will link it in the show notes for those that want to read. But he wrote a response to that, and then even linked some of the people that were, I think, quoted in the original article.
Yeah, I didn't know that BuzzFeed was actually ranked, in, I think, 2017, the least reliable news source.
That's so frustrating when the sources, like, they don't even vet the sources like they used to, like journalists. Like, they just put out what's going to get them views.
Well, with accusations like this, you got to be... As a reporter, I would think you need to be. Today, it's so different, right? They don't give a shit anymore. They just, okay, what's going to get clicks and headlines?
Exactly. I don't think it was a lack of vetting sources. I think it was malicious in intent, knowing that it would be. I mean, you're talking about one of the most famous people right now.
I mean, here's a guy that's been a self-help, mega star for 40 years. I mean, the guy has he's been at least 40 years, right, Doug, for Tony Robbins? Been crushing?
Yeah.
30 or 40, I'm not sure.
So decades. And he has advised some of the world's greatest leaders. He's been in front of hundreds of thousands or millions of people now cumulatively. He used to sell videos that he sold to. So through all the decades of work that he's doing, this guy's been relatively impeccable in terms of, you know, how he's done, how people have, interacted with him and all that stuff. And so now you have BuzzFeed coming out and saying, hey, 20, 30 years ago or 20 years ago, here's a few things that he did that were, you know, whatever, which, okay, maybe they have a story, but I hope that they really were careful about vetting it, because we live in a time now where it's like guilty until proven innocent. It's not the other way around anymore.
Yeah,
you know,
it's kind of, well, so I remember when it was Chris Hardwick. I don't know if you guys remember when he got accused of, it was during the whole Me Too like drive. Like his girlfriend like had this vendetta to basically drag his name through the mud, and he got fired from his job. He got fired from all these other like shows. He was on like he had probably like 10 or 12 shows like he was running at one time, and they just, before even going through the process of
just cut him.
They just cut him completely, and it was just, to me, immediately just red flags. And I'm not like, you know, obviously if somebody was wronged and they went through the process of being judged and tried for their crimes, like that's everything. Like take them down. But you know, if you didn't do the process of even going looking into it from both perspectives, like that's where I'm just like,
well,
can't.
What's unfortunate, and I don't remember who was speaking to this point, but to your point, Sal, that we live in this time now of you're guilty until proven innocent, is something like that just goes out, like on Tony Robbins. Like, no matter how false or wrong or the other side of the story, he's fucked no matter what, because it
tarnishes his name.
Well, there's going to be millions of people that won't read any further beyond that automatically will make their judgment from that one reading, and that's all they needed to tip that, like, I knew he couldn't be that awesome. I knew fuck him, or like, you know what I'm saying? And then won't do any more research, will go about their day, not think twice about it. And now they have this image of him. And then if he's ever talked about from that person, and there's got to be, when you talk about the millions of people that read that article, there's got to be a percentage of those people that immedially he's tarnished.
Well,
now. That's unfortunate.
The way I look at it is this: is that if somebody says, makes an accusation, you got to listen to him, and then don't make them feel like shit for accusing.
No.
And then the person who got accused, you got to also don't assume that they're automatically guilty, but obviously keep your eyes open and get your case together. And then if it turns out that the accuser was being honest, take that person down. If the accuser turns out that they had ulterior motives and they were lying, take that person down. But until you know, be objective, because you don't want victims to be afraid. You don't want victims to be afraid of coming forward because they feel like they'll get attacked, because that's what's happened in the past.
I hate the idea of anything like that, though, even taking someone down who's wrong, right? So, I mean, I think of myself, like, and I think about where we're at in our lives and what we're trying to do. And one of the things that I talked about the other day was, when we were hanging out with Mark Manson, was, I'm in a place in my life where my goal is to give more than I take. And a lot of that is the evolution of my own life and personal growth and where I'm at in my life today. And I would hate for any of the good or the stuff that I try and give today that I feel comes from a very pure place to be tarnished by something I did when I was 22. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did a lot of stupid shit in my life.
Everybody did.
Completely different person.
Everybody did.
Right. I said a lot of things that probably came off really bad. I probably didn't treat a lot of people right. I probably did a lot of things that you could totally burn me at the stake for. And that sucks that we live in a world today that I can't recreate myself or be a better version of myself because of all those things. And that if I were to build this massive platform that ends up helping millions of people and change millions of lives and millions of people love me, that it could be stripped away from me or tarnished because something came out when Adam was 21.
Oh no, I think the reaction. I think it needs to be appropriate. When I say take the person down, I mean I think it needs to be appropriate, because look, here's the deal. If you're listening right now, if you had a camera on you 24 hours a day from the age of 13 till now, every single person listening to this podcast and every single person that 100%. I could find clips of shit that you said or did that was repulsive, horrible, terrible. Everybody. Something you said, something you did, something you acted. We're all selfish, terrible people at some point in our lives when we're teenagers, maybe when we're not that self-aware and we're just fucking, idiots. We've all done something really, really mean or said something terrible. I have, all of us have, and it's all of us would be fucked. So it has to be proportional. So if he said something or did something or whatever, and it was rectified, okay, fine. That was 20, 30 years ago. You may be a different person today.
That's what this is. You know that, right?
I know.
This is 20 to 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ. Now, and that's not to say like that someone shouldn't be taken down for things like what we saw with Bill Cosby. Or
geez, no, that's totally different.
Right. Like I mean, I think
he never paid for that shit.
Right.
Yeah, that's totally different.
Justice.
Totally different. Hey, are you guys seeing the whole trade war, China, U.S. economic shit that's going on with how do you pronounce that company? Huawei?
I call it Huawei. I don't know how you pronounce it specifically.
Do you see what's going on with Huawei?
Dude, Huawei has been on my radar. I've been listening to a couple podcasts that have brought them up in terms of like how their market share has grown like substantially and who's really behind Huawei. Like there was a guy there that I believe the founder was somewhat tied to their intelligence for China at some point.
Oh, it's a state-sponsored company. So
think about it. Think about like their interests, like in wanting to control, having all that technology at their disposal. Everybody's cell phone now has, some tie-in with China.
What do they produce for sale? What is it?
Huawei was it's a huge tech company.
Mobile phones.
Yeah, and they were poised to potentially become one of the if not the number one. They're already one of the top, but the number one producer of cell phones, basically. That's one of the biggest products. So they're a tech monster. out in Asia, and they're competing with companies like Samsung and Apple.
And they've been caught listening in on people already.
Well, so now what it is that the U.S. has, and I think this is all part of the economic war. Make no mistake, China and the U.S. right now are engaging in a type of Cold War through economics. It's been waging for a while now, but it's been ramped up with the tariffs and with the calling each other out. And this is a big shot across the bow, which is the U.S. government saying to companies, U.S. tech companies, if you want to work with Huawei, you have to get U.S. government approval. So now Google is cut all their ties with Huawei.
Oh, shit.
And that will
just like that.
That's going to fuck Huawei's market international. I mean, they'll still do their so in China, Huawei by far is the largest supplier of cell phones and stuff in China, but they in the Chinese markets, they're not even allowed to have Google on there. They're not allowed to have Facebook. They use Huawei operating platforms and Chinese-based stuff. So already it's been banned in China. Like you can't. But internationally, which is where they were exploding because they make cheap, decent phones.
Right.
They rely on Google and internationally. International consumers don't want a fucking Chinese produced phone with Chinese shit on it and they're not having Google. Right. So Google now out.
Whoa!
Now they're not going to work because
that's
the
a big
US
deal.
That's
a huge deal.
Intel, Microsoft, everybody's like nobody can work with.
Pulled the plug on them.
Can't work with them unless they get approved by the U.S. government.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's convenient that we don't have to see all this like espionage and all this kind of stuff that goes on like constantly, like day to day. Like it's convenient that we think it just all works and everything's great and nobody's like really trying to like steal ideas and all this kind of stuff. But like the reality is something completely different. There's literally like an underground war going on of information between countries.
Yeah, that's the big fear. The big fear is that these Chinese phones are spying on us. Well, first of all, they all are. They're all spying on us. But this is a state-sponsored, phone or whatever technology. So that's how they're fueling or supporting the decision to do that. Now, and as a result of that, of course, tech markets slide in loss of money because now, remember, China is the second largest economy in the world. They're a powerhouse. And so we're further isolating them. And that kind of hurts everybody economically, but it hurts China the most. And so what you have right now is this economic war with tariffs, with stealing each other's technology, and now stuff like this.
It's a war of attrition right now.
This is it. This was the Cold War. Yeah. The Cold War with the Soviet Union, eventually we won because it turned into who can spend more money and who can handle the most pain.
Yeah, but China's in it for the long haul, man.
Well, that's an interesting one. So what I think is going to happen is if Trump wins the next election, I think China is going to be in a bad position. Up until the election, I think China is going to try real hard to make Trump look bad, and hope the next guy that comes in is going to be like, hey, we'll start working with them. But right now, it's a fucking economic war. And my only fear is if we go too deep in the economic war, that it'll get to the point where it'll be proxy wars and then it'll be real war, because right now it's like we're hurting each other economically. But you hurt someone economically enough. I mean, make no mistake, it's war. Make no mistake, we're affecting people. It's just we're not firing guns. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This Quah is brought to you by Organifi. For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's Organifi.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout. First question is from Catherine B. Fit. When the gym is absolutely packed and all the major equipment is taken, what do you suggest doing? Improvise using lighter weights with higher reps, or choose different exercises?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. This is a legit I forget how big of a problem this is because I haven't worked out in a big, busy gym. And I do it occasionally.
I remember those days. Yeah.
Yeah, I do it occasionally. But most of my workouts are done now at my house, in my garage, which is just basic equipment.
Way better.
I don't have to wait for anybody except for Jessica. Or I work out early in the morning at a gym, and early mornings are typically not super packed, this is the prime time. This is when people are going to work out. Like, I mean, I tell you what, if you've never ran a gym before, like you majority of your sales, production, and workouts happen between the hours of like 4 to like 8 p.m. There's that 4-hour window where it's like lunchtime in a restaurant. Like if you own a sandwich shop, you ain't selling shit until about lunch, and then it gets crazy.
I just remember I'd like finding a corner, getting like a bench that would go incline or, you know, would be adjustable, and then having dumbbells. And I'm like, like everybody else can get away from me. I'm busy right here.
That's exactly what I do. Like what I like to do when this happens, and again, it hasn't happened for a while, but it's what I used to do. If I could get my hands on one exercise that was really effective, then, so let's say I'm doing a long leg workout, and I'm going to do squats, maybe walking lunges, leg press, stiff-legged deadlifts, leg curls, or something like that. Let's say I get my hands on a squat or a leg press, and I'm looking around. I'm like, that's still busy. It's still busy. I'm doing 10 sets of one exercise. That's what I do. I start to just do one exercise, and I do a lot of sets of that exercise, and it's actually quite effective. In fact, I do that even when it's not super busy. I do that in my garage, where sometimes I pick one exercise and I practice the hell out of it. And it has benefits independent of any other factor. Like just the fact that you're doing one exercise so many other times for so many sets, there's a lot of benefit to doing that anyway.
No, there is. And I love that idea, because typically you can get like a single barbell to possibly deadlift, a single barbell to possibly squat, a single barbell to possibly do a flat or an incline bench, or a barbell to do an overhead press. Like one of those things hopefully is open. And if it's that chaotic, that's exactly what I might do myself, is like, you know what, today I'm going to do incline bench for the entire hour, you know, and prime myself really well and take my time and do a tempo set, then do a heavy set, and just work that exercise for an entire hour. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. That's something I would do intermittently. Obviously, I wouldn't choose every time I come to the gym. Hopefully, this doesn't screw you every time. Like if you're somebody who only works out at 5 p.m. every night at the gym, this could be a rough situation. And in that case, every time I go to the gym, and if I always have like one or two movements I really want to do, meaning that I definitely want.
Those are the two rocks in the
right. Like all the exercises that I plan to do today, of the 6 to 8 of them that I'm going to go through. There's 2 in there, 1 or 2 of them that are like, I'm going to the gym for that reason. So if that's, let's say those 2 are just taken at that moment, I'll do a bunch of the other stuff waiting until that moment comes to where I can go do that exercise.
Definitely that, but then I'll also be like a little more assertive in terms of like, I'm going to go up there and be like, how many sets you got left, whatever, like, and I'm going to put my fucking towel or whatever I got to do to be able to get that squat rack right after they're done. I'll work out next to them. But like, yeah, I have at least 1 or 2 movements. Like those are like the non-negotiables I have to get done.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of putting your quarter on the video game back in the day.
Totally.
Kids playing. Like I
would totally do that.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing too. This is just
working in. Too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this is gym etiquette. Like if the person working out if you don't have to do major adjustments to what equipment they're using, like if they're on a leg press and the guy's leg pressing 9 plates and you want to leg press 2 plates, might not work. But if there aren't major adjustments, gym etiquette says that they say yes to you if you ask to jump in. Now you have to be mindful of the time that they're resting in between sets, so you don't want to jump in and completely mess up the workout. But you ask them, hey, you mind if I jump in? And most good people will say yes. Here's the other thing too that I think is important to communicate. If you're a consistent gym goer, this becomes more of a problem for you. But if you're a consistent gym goer, I think that people don't spend enough time going to the gym and playing around. Like, it's okay to go to the gym and sometimes go off routine and just practice and have fun with different pieces of equipment and different things that you don't normally use, and just get in there and feel how they feel. And I've done this. I do this specifically when I go to new gyms now, because like I said, I never work out in big gyms. So now when we're traveling and we go, like we just recently did our event our live event in Encinitas that's down north of San Diego. And we all decided, let's get a workout when we first get there because we'll have some time. So we went to this, what was the name of the gym there? We should give them a shout out. Something, it was just Fit,
Something
right?
Just Fit, yeah.
It was a great gym, by the way.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But because I never work out and typically don't work out in gyms, I go in there to play. So like I know what I typically do to work out, but because I'm in a place with equipment that I'm not normally exposed to or around, my workout consisted of mostly shit that I never do. So I did a lot of machines, I did a lot of different types of equipment, and those types of workouts, because they're so different and because it's novel, become phenomenal workouts. Now, if I did them all the time, they wouldn't be as effective as my traditional workouts. There's a reason why I pick certain exercises that I do most of the time, but throwing them in every once in a while, they actually become super effective, novel, stimulus type workouts. And so I'm in there doing that. It's funny because as I'm doing all these machines, I'm thinking, and of course, 3 people came up and recognized me. I'm like, great. They probably think I'm a liar because I'm doing all these machines and isolation movements when I'm always promoting barbell stuff. But no, it's I'm going in there to play because I don't have access to all the stuff. So that's another, state of mind you can go in with. And the last thing I'll say is this. If you're super serious about your fitness and you're in a gym that's so packed that you don't have access to a lot of types of machines and equipment, pay more and go to a better gym.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line. The difference between...
Or get a PRX.
or work out at home.
Game changer.
Yeah. The difference between a $30 a month gym and a $80 to $100 a month gym is massive. And I know people are like, I don't want to pay another, $50 a month. It's a month. $50 a month is nothing. It really isn't for most people. I think most people, they value gym memberships as cheap because so many gyms sell cheap-ass gym memberships.
Yeah.
But if you value your fitness and health, you probably already invest money in it. Another $30, $40, $50 a month,
Katrina and
you'll have an amazing gym.
Katrina and I argue about this all the time because she gets so mad at me with because it comes out of one of our accounts, our joint account, and I have memberships at
You have like 3 or 4
oh,
different
bro,
ones?
I have 4 different memberships.
I still have at least 3
that I pay. So I probably spend close to 300, 200 something at least to close to $300 a month in gym memberships. But to me, I value it that much. There's something that I really appreciate in all those gyms, whether it be convenience for me, the cardio equipment in another one, the pool in another one.
One's more spa-based.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I value my workouts that much that if I have a moment in the middle of the day where I'm feeling a vibe, like, I mean, I had that the other day with you, Sal, where I was just like, I really want to steam. Like, I like that I have a membership, that I have access to a really nice steam room that I can go if that's what I'm feeling. Like, I want to be able to go do that. Now, I guess not everybody has that ability to do that, so I get that, I understand it, but there is a lot of value to... in my opinion, if you care a lot about your health and fitness goals and with spending a little more money on the gym. And I think it has got to the point where, because of Planet Fitness and the 24-hour fitness, because they drove the rates down so much that
We have this false perception of what the real value is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what it's like now in the gym market. $10 more a month, people will, you're charging $39. Well, the gym down the street's charging $29. It's like $10. Even though the gym is way better, we have a pool, we have all this other stuff you want. It's $10 more a month, and people, oh fuck it, I'm not going to go to this gym because it's insane to me. For me personally, somebody who I take my fitness and health very seriously, and it's something that I prioritize. I don't give a shit if I spend twice as much a month. What's the difference? $50 a month, big deal. I'm using it, and it's not packed all the time.
it's hilarious. We'll pay $130 for yoga pants.
Yeah.
One pair.
Yeah, one pair of yoga pants. We'll pay $130 for them. we won't spend $39.99 for a gym membership.
No, so that's the thing.
Outrageous.
That's the thing. The cheaper gyms are going to be packed. The cheaper gyms are going to be dirtier, and the equipment is not going to be as up to date in terms of if it's broken, it'll be broken for a week. Spend $100. I promise, if you spend $100 a month in most places, you're going to get a gym that's not that packed. That's got clean, good equipment, and you might not have to deal with this. But again, if you're dealing with it, have fun. Go in and play around. Say, okay, today I had the structure to my workout. It's obviously not going to happen. Rather than going home, let's go try some different shit.
What's funny, Sal? We talk a lot about on here about people ask us a lot like predicting trends that we're going to see. I'm going to put that out there and say that we're going to see a rise in the higher end gyms for these types of reasons. Health and fitness is becoming more popular and more trendy like, that Planet Fitness is starting to capture all these people that will just throw $10 away and never use a gym, that more and more people are becoming aware of the importance of health and fitness and having a gym membership, that this is going to become a thing that's going to become annoying for the really serious people. And I think you're going to see
it's already happening.
An uptick in these.
Oh, it's already happening. What's the company that owns, I can't remember, Western? I don't remember the name of them, but they own Courtside. They own... The Bay Club, I think, was another big one.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think I think there's one parent company
there
still,
is.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what they specialize in. They specialize.
It used to be Club One, right? Or
I'm not sure.
No. Okay.
That's different. So they specialize in the higher end gyms that are anywhere between $100 to $150 a month, and they're profiting like crazy. Lifetime is opening up these gyms, and they're spending a lot of money on them. Did you see the apartment complex type gyms that they're opening? Mm-hmm. They're building buildings, so apartment buildings, but it's all centered around fitness. So they have sick-ass gym, like a sick-ass gym, or it's either next to an amazing Lifetime Fitness or it's just part of it. The apartment complex itself is catered towards people who consider health and fitness a priority in their lives. Yeah. So I think it's already happening, Adam. The market's already starting to splinter off where you're getting the high-end stuff, and that's going to keep growing, and then you're going to get little niche markets.
That's actually an interesting opportunity. I talked to a trainer who had basically got one of those apartments from an apartment complex that just emerged, and there was a gym that was, a really nice gym, but centered his entire business around just recruiting everybody there that lived there to train with him, and was doing really well with it, I guess. Wow. And so that was interesting that captured that specific market.
Next question is from Elena Jover. After a 2-week period of no workouts during a program like MAPS Anabolic, is it better to continue where you left off or to start the program all over again?
We get questions like this all the time.
May be one. I was just going to say the number one question I probably get about our programs. Like, what do I do when I stop in the middle of one of them? Like, where do I start over? Now, I'm curious to hear what you guys say. I know what I typically recommend people to do. Now, here's the thing. You take a 2-week break or more, you can't really do anything wrong. Just restarting the program anywhere, and you would be okay. Whether it be move along to the very next phase, start that phase over, start the whole program over. Nothing's a bad idea, to be honest with you. And it's hard to say exactly which would be the best. So I don't think you can go wrong with any of these, because your body is going to respond to any stimulus at that point, because you've already started to go the other direction because you haven't worked out. But I typically tell people, if wherever they stopped in the program, so let's say you're in MAPS Anabolic and you're on phase 2 and you're 2 weeks in, and then you fall off, and then you're off for 2 weeks or more, and then you come back on, I normally just say start that phase over again and then pick up where you left off. That's typically the recommendation.
That's what I would typically recommend. But so I don't have a hard number, but what I've noticed with myself is that if I take a break, typically 1/3 of the time of the break that I took is how long it takes me to kind of get back into it. In other words, if I did a 3-week break, I would give myself a week to get my body back so that I could train at the same intensity and same level I was at before. If it was a 6-week break, it might take me 2 weeks, for example. This is going to be different from person to person. Wherever you start back, start slow. One of the things that I learned, one of the lessons I learned over and over again on myself, is if I did take a break and come back, I'd come back with the same fury and intensity as I left with, and my body, and I'd be sore as shit, and it just would have overdone it. So wherever you start back up in, give yourself some time to work back up to the same level of intensity, regardless of where you jump back in. So I don't care if it's phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3, you left with a certain type of intensity. You're probably not going to be able to jump in with the same kind of intensity. And in my opinion, it's around one, and this is not a perfect number, like 1/3 the time that you took off. So, if it's 3 months off, it might take you a month to slowly work your way back in.
Yeah, this is a hard one because I don't have a hard answer. Like, you definitively have to jump back to that same phase that you're working on if you wanted to move forward. I think that a lot of it is a feel thing. How long did you take off? Like, what do you feel recharged, like you want to move forward and progress, or do you feel like, maybe you need some time to, like a refresher to go back through that same phase and, work on that skill set a little bit further? I think that there's value in that. I think there's value in, because of the fact that your body had started to respond, and then now you go into this period where, you're getting rest and, maybe like you rested long enough to where I could revisit that and like benefit from that same experience. But yeah, I tend to just take it based off of like the time length off. Like if that was more of like a deload versus like, well, I kind of spent a really long time off, so I should probably start over.
Well, MAPS Anabolic's cool because it's got pre-phase.
Right. I don't think I would ever just, if it's at least a week or two off, I don't think I would ever just pick up where I left off. I think I would always either reset the phase or reset the whole program. Because to your point where you were heading with the pre-phase, Sal, is like, yeah, if you start getting 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks out, I mean, you become deconditioned really quick. My first workout back, always when I've taken off a couple weeks, is it looks like none of our phases. If it looks like anything, it looks closer to pre-phase.
Exactly. That's why I put pre-phase in MAPS Anabolic. So pre-phase is in MAPS Anabolic. There's two reasons for it. One is for the people who haven't worked out in a little while, but they want to do MAPS Anabolic. It's not appropriate to jump right into phase one. Phase one is for people who've been working out, and then they go MAPS Anabolic and want to try something different, go right to phase one. If you haven't been working out, you start in pre-phase. And depending on how long you haven't worked out, you can do that for anywhere between 2 weeks to 3 months before jumping into phase one. If you're a beginner, I'd go 3 months first. If you've only taken off a couple months, I'd go 1 to 3 weeks and then jump into phase one. But pre-phase can also be used when you just take time off in between. So if you're following a program, you're following MAPS Anabolic, and then, oh shit, I haven't worked out for 2 weeks, do a week of pre-phase and then jump right back in to where you left off. That's a great way to utilize pre-phase. Now, for those of you that don't own MAPS Anabolic and you want to know how you could apply some of that knowledge to your current program, pre-phase basically is a very basic full body workout, 3 sets per body part, 8 to 12 reps, focusing on technique and form, and you do that 2 to 3 days a week. So if you've taken a few weeks off of your routine, you're not a MAPS Anabolic customer, but you want to utilize some of this knowledge, just do a full body workout 3 days a week, do one exercise per body part, 8 to 12 reps, focus on your form. That'll help get you back to where you left off so you could jump back into your routine.
Next question is from Anya VR. Is it better to do a slow, more gradual cut as opposed to a shorter, more drastic mini cut?
Well, it depends on what you mean by better. So if the idea is, if the question is what's better for short-term fat loss, then I could make the argument that the drastic mini cut, and a mini cut would be a drastic reduction in calories, or at least in the way this person's putting it, because a mini cut doesn't have to be drastic, but this person said drastic. So a drastic mini cut would be 750 calories or more under your current caloric burn in terms of consumption. So if you're burning 3,000 calories a day, you're going to take in 2,000 or 2,200 calories a day. That would be a kind of a drastic. And then the mini cut would be you're doing it for 2 to 4 weeks and then you go back. Yes, you'll burn more body fat in a short period of time doing it that way than doing it gradual. Now, if the question is which one's better for long-term success, gradual. Because gradual allows you the time to slowly integrate new behaviors and patterns into your life that become permanent before you move on to more behavior changes and patterns. And that's been the process that I've seen to be the most successful long-term. And that it's not the short-term solution, but long-term, in my opinion, it's the better way.
No, I agree with you. I do want to add, though, the mini cut like that where you drop drastically, like let's say, and I've done as high as like 1,000 calories a day. I've reduced. That all really depends on that advice is where that person's metabolism is currently at, whether I would allow that or recommend that or potentially work with that. So if you're used the example, like you said, Sal, 3,200 and they drop down, I mean, that's a pretty healthy place. I would never want to take a client of mine who's like, let's say their caloric maintenance is at 1,300 calories and take them from 1,300 all the way down to, 300 calories for an extended period of time. I don't think that's ideal. But there are some really good benefits to go on a drastic, quote unquote, cut for a short period of time and then to go back into a free refeed. You just got to be careful of what happens. What tends to happen to somebody who it's like the purge and binge habit happens a lot. Yeah. When someone cuts that hard, that's the kind of the drawback of a drastic cut for let's say a week or 2 weeks. But I mean, when I compete, that's kind of what happens towards the last few weeks is I'm cutting pretty aggressively. And of course, what happens when you get off a stage and you're off is the next day you want to binge like crazy. So you got to be careful if you.
It encourages that behavior.
It does. It encourages that because you're restricting so hard, and then you decide, oh, I'm off my mini cut. Now it's back to refeed or increase calories. And what you do is instead of just replenishing the 1,000 calories a day, you end up replenishing 1,500, 2,000. So just beware of that. But I think both of them are fine and have their place. I don't think it's one is better than the other. I think they each have their pros and cons to them. But to Sal's point, the slower, more gradual for overall health reasons is probably the better route. But there's great benefits to an aggressive mini cut because then you're obviously going to see a faster, more rapid fat loss. But then the flip to that coin is, you also are going to want to rebound really hard afterwards, and you need to have that mental discipline.
I would say that the slow, gradual cut, where you're watching your behaviors, you're changing small changes, making them permanent. That's appropriate for most people. That's the appropriate approach for most people. The mini cut approach is fine if you're good with your nutrition. If you've got good understanding of macros already, you've got a good control over it, you've got a good relationship with food, you're relatively advanced when it comes to manipulating calories and macros and understanding how your body responds and reacts. Then mini cuts in that fashion are perfectly fine. But most people, I mean, look, I train a lot of everyday average people. I almost never recommended drastic mini cuts to most people. It was always the gradual approach that I found to be most successful, except for the small periods of time when I would deal with a person like myself. Like I was a kid who was constantly, my issue with food was I thought I had to eat it all the time because I was skinny. And so my issue with food was to constantly force feed myself every 2 hours. There could be some behavioral, potential benefits for someone like that, where I say to them, hey, we're going to have you fast today. And then tomorrow you're going to eat a little bit just to kind of break those chains. But for most people, it's not that way. For most people, the last thing I recommend is, hey, Mrs. Johnson, I know you're trying to lose 30 pounds. Here's what we're going to do. I'm only going to have you eat 1,000 calories a day for the next week. And then next week we'll make up for it by bringing it back up. Holy shit, man. If you want to strengthen a poor relationship to food, that's a great way to do it. I don't see a whole lot of benefit there.
Someday I'm going to meet this Mrs. Johnson.
I always bring her up, don't I?
Yeah.
Next question is from Nautical P Fan 2. Can you go in depth on what body dysmorphia is and how it can sabotage our health and fitness goals, and how it can affect our daily life as well as physical and emotional health?
Would you say that everybody or all of us have some sort of body dysmorphia?
I would say it's extremely common.
It's just I think there's a spectrum, right? I think that some of us it's extremely bad to where you do extremely bad behaviors as a result of it. And then I think, what makes me think that all of us kind of have it, and I think I shared this on the show before.
Some degree.
Right. Like one of my trainer buddies, I remember seeing the way he covered up his body when I ran into him in the bathroom, and I was thinking what I was thinking was, oh man, he looks good. He looks thick and filled out. Like that was what's crossed my mind. What was obviously crossing his mind because he said something right away, like, oh man, I've been so out of shape, and right away starts making an excuse to why he doesn't think he looks good right now. And I think, wow, that's crazy that he views himself that way when I was actually in my head complimenting him without saying anything. I'm thinking, well, he looks really good right now. And it made me actually reflect on myself and how often do I do this to myself? And being completely honest, I'm sure I do this where I'm super hypercritical of the way I look because the way I imagine people view my body when it's not at its best is probably way worse than how they really view it. I think most people probably don't even fucking notice, don't care, or actually even think I may look decent when I go like, oh God, I don't look good, right?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I want to say that none of us are psychological experts or psychiatrists, and body dysmorphia. The clinical body dysmorphia is this is an issue that oftentimes can be treated, or people will try to get treated by medical professionals. That being said, we are in the fitness industry. We've been in the fitness industry for over 20 years, and the fitness industry is the place to find body dysmorphia. It defines. Unfortunately, it defines the fitness industry at large. Now, the clinical definition on body dysmorphia or body dysmorphic disorder is a mental illness involving obsessive focus on a perceived flaw in appearance. So the flaw may be minor or imagined, but the person may spend hours a day trying to fix it, and they may even try many cosmetic procedures or exercise to excess. Now, body dysmorphia can range from people who literally, want to remove a limb off their body. That's a type of body dysmorphia where they don't like their hand. This is a real one. It's rare, super rare, but they want it to cut off. Want it cut off. To the more common forms of body dysmorphia, where you just hate yourself. You don't like your body. You think you're ugly. You think you're fat. And by the way, you very well may be overweight. So it's not that you're not necessarily observing real things. You might be overweight. The problem is the obsession of it, and the fact that your body image becomes your self-image. It's when you identify with these things that becomes the problem. I had what I would consider severe body dysmorphia growing up. I was a skinny kid. Now, here's a funny thing, by the way. I look at pictures of myself as a kid now that I've moved past a lot of this. I look at pictures of myself when I was a kid now, and I look at them and I go, yeah, I was skinny, but it wasn't that bad. Right. But boy, did I imagine it to be terrible.
Yeah, when you're growing up in the developmental process, all it takes is one comment. A lot of times, from one of your peers or somebody like a girl or somebody else that highlights something that you already have these insecurities about. And for me, that was the case. Just taking my shirt off and then having bony shoulders and being skinny and being ghost white, that used to bother the shit out of me for a while until, you grow up and you realize it's like everybody wants to point flaw in something. It doesn't even matter if you're the most beautiful person in the world. If you're the Megan Fox, everybody gives her shit about her fingers that look like toes or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah, exactly. There's always something. And, so there's like you said, there's a spectrum of that. I believe that there's just everybody has to face the facts of what are my flaws and can I move forward from that?
It's funny. I was going through old pictures with some family members, and one of my aunts, who's now in her 50s, we saw a picture of when I was a little kid, and she was, holding me, and we were at the beach or whatever, or I was standing next to her, I should say. And she was in her bathing suit, and she laughs, and she goes, I remember this. She goes, that's back when I used to think I was really fat. And she was obviously wasn't. She's like, but back then I thought that I was. And God, what I would do to look like that again or whatever. Everybody goes through that, right, when they get older. So it's a problem, especially when because I remember as a skinny kid or as a kid who perceived myself to be too skinny, it became my identity. I identified with it. So I had to change it at all costs because otherwise I'm not worth attention. I'm not, I'm not a good person or whatever. That's where the problem comes from. And a big part of the problem because it's grown, by the way. Body dysmorphia is probably worse now than ever before.
100%, especially in this Instagram world.
That's it.
I mean, it's. They're asking, how can it sabotage our health and fitness goals or affect our daily life? I mean, it could fucking cripple you. And I think
you become obsessed with it.
And I think we are seeing it more and more today than we ever have. And I think a lot of that is promoted from these platforms where, and even myself, when I look, a lot of times I have to I go through my feed and I just start unfollowing people is whatever it was that made me start following them. I'm not getting a lot of value from them. I see their physique and their body, and I'm just comparing. And you can't, whether you think you are or not. That's the thing too. And I know when you hear people say that, because I'm not somebody who like goes on another page.
You're not consciously comparing.
Yeah, not consciously, but you're constantly seeing that, and it then makes your brain, tricks your brain into thinking that's normal.
Yeah, let me give you an example, right? Adam, you're 6'4", 6'4", right?
6'3",
6'3". Okay, so tall. You're tall for the average person. If you lived in a world where the average man was 7 feet tall, or if you lived in that world for a few months, you would start to perceive yourself as short.
Right.
That's because your brain automatically compares yourself to the average. The problem is the average is not what you see around you in the real world. The average has become what you look at most, which is your social media. And most of the shit that we follow on Instagram, if they're not friends or family, are perfect looking, photoshopped or whatever type of bodies. You're automatically, without realizing it, your brain is now perceiving where you are on the hierarchy of what you may value, which you may value how you look very, very highly. So here I am. I'm someone who values looks very highly, and my brain is now perceiving me to be low on the totem pole because everybody I look at is perfect. Holy fuck. I'm not a good person. I don't feel good. I feel bad about myself. Now, how does that affect your exercise and fitness? Well, shit, man. If you're working out and eating because you fucking hate yourself, you're going to make bad decisions, bottom line. Mm-hmm. You're going to starve yourself or force feed yourself. You're going to beat the crap out of yourself in the gym. You may take anabolic steroids or things to augment you're never going to be satisfied.
Or you may just give up because you feel like it's unobtainable.
Or you may drown yourself in food or alcohol or whatever. This is why there's that cycle of obesity. It's like, I'm 15, 20 pounds overweight. I feel fat. I feel bad about myself. I want to feel better about myself. Food makes me feel better. I'm going to eat more food. Now I'm 30 pounds overweight. And then the cycle just continues. So that's kind of what it's all about. And it'll drive you in a way that doesn't feel good. So here's what you got to do. This is the most effective thing I ever did for myself, and most effective thing I've ever communicated to clients. And again, I want to remind everybody, I'm not a medical professional on this. Again, just a trainer, but I found this to be very effective, is I tell people two things. Your body image is not your self-image, okay? So you can objectively look at your body and say things, okay? But don't connect that to your self-image. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference between me looking in the mirror and saying, I have fat on my body, I think I have a little bit too much fat on my body, or I have too much fat on my body. And there's a difference between that and saying, I'm disgusting, I'm a disgusting person, I'm gross, fat. I'm ugly, or I am fat. Okay, you are not fat. You have fat. So big difference. And if you think that's not going to make a big difference, no, it makes a massive difference. Your self-talk is what you start to believe. So separate the two. Number two, accept yourself. True acceptance and care doesn't mean you do whatever the fuck you want. Like, when you see someone who really takes care of their car or of their dog,
you're not justifying bad behavior.
Yeah. When you really, really care about your child, does that mean you let them do whatever the fuck they want and feed themselves however they want and do all the drugs? Of course not. You're going to take care of them properly. That's what true self-love and self-care is. When you're really taking care of yourself, it is not the false perception of self-care, which is the cowardly, easy way, believe it or not, of escaping this is, oh, I care. I love myself. That's why I do whatever the fuck I want, and I don't try to work out because I love my body the way it is. And that's actually the opposite. You're projecting a lot of your fears and insecurities, and you're selling yourself on the pathology of how you're thinking about yourself. When you're really taking care of yourself, it's hard. You really have to take care of yourself. So that means sometimes you'll eat a donut, but most of the times you probably won't. It means sometimes you're gonna relax and allow your body to rest and recover. But a lot of times you're going to be working out and doing things that make you grow as a person, both physically and emotionally and mentally. So those are the two things. If you can do those two things, you can get around and defeat body dysmorphia. And I will say this for people who are afraid of, being accepted or loved by other people, or if they're going to be attractive. The most attractive people in the world are people who have a positive self-image and who truly take care of themselves and who are authentic. You might not attract as many people but the people you attract will be real
right
and
people.
deep, and they'll have deep connections.
100%.
That's it. So, and with that, go to mindpumpfree.com and download some of our guides. We have a lot of guides on there, and they're all absolutely free. You can also find us all on Instagram. You can find Justin at mindpumpjustin. You can find Adam at mindpumpadam. And then you can find me at mindpumpsal.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.